getting a kill with every Swedish fighter in the whole tech tree. So the first plane's the J6, aka Jaktfalken, or Fighter Falcon, built by Svenska Aero. This plane had its maiden flight in 1929 and was in service from 1930 to 1941. Next up is the J8. This plane is basically a Gloucester Gladiator. The Gladiator had its first flight in 1934 and served the Swedish Air Force from 1937 to 1946. Next up is the J11, not to be confused with the Cheng-Yang one. Sweden bought 72 from Italy during 1939 to 1941. Now we're going to use the J20. This is also an Italian plane. It is a quite good plane for its BR, but its guns ain't it. Next up is the J22A and B. J22 is a Swedish fighter aircraft that was in service from 1943 to 1952. A common misconception is that this was developed by Saab, but it was actually developed by another Swedish aircraft developer called FFVS. It had two configurations, reconnaissance and fighter. The reconnaissance version had cameras mounted inside the fuselage. Next up, the Saab 21s. The Saab 21 is a Swedish fighter attack aircraft. Introduced in the late 1940s, the J-21 was recognized for its innovative design, featuring a pusher propeller configuration instead of the classic puller propeller configuration. It was quite ahead of its time, too. It actually had an ejection seat and a ballistic computer. Next up is the J-26. This is just your regular P-51, but how it ended up in Sweden is actually quite interesting. During the war, several P-51s made emergency landings at Swedish airfields. Out of the many that did land, a few were selected and put under Swedish service. As the war neared its end, Sweden thought they would become involved in the war and bought 50 P-51Ds. These new Mustangs would be classified as the J-26. Sweden later bought more Mustangs due to the rollout of their own aircraft, the Saab 21. Sweden had over 140 Mustangs until more advanced aircraft replaced them. Many J-26s were sold off to other countries like Israel and Nicaragua. Next up, the Saab 21R, or 21 reactions motor, which translates to rocket-powered or turbine-powered engine in Swedish. It's essentially a modified version of the Saab 21, now equipped with a turbine jet engine. This modification occurred after the Second World War, when Sweden aimed to develop jet-powered planes to catch up with other countries. The Saab 21R stands out as one of the very few planes that successfully underwent power plant conversion while maintaining the same platform. Next, we present the Saab 29 Flygande des Tunen, or the Flying Barrel. Its first flight took place in 1948. It served in both Sweden and Austria. 3 distinct configurations were developed: a reconnaissance variant, a fighter model, and an attack version. Notably, in 1954, it established a world record for the fastest aircraft, achieving a speed of 977 kilometers an hour. Later versions were outfitted with afterburners and radar warning receivers, which is also known as RWR. The J-29 was also the first Swedish aircraft equipped with air-to-air missiles and the second Swedish aircraft to see actual combat. In real life, the Tunen had JATO rockets just like the A-4 to help out with takeoff, which we sadly can't see in game. Next up is the Saab 32 Lansen. It first took flight in 1952 and was retired in 1997. Like the Tunen, it was constructed in 3 configurations: reconnaissance, fighter, and attack. The fighter variant featured a more powerful engine and air-to-air missiles. It was also the first Swedish-produced plane equipped with radar. The Lansen played a crucial role in assessing the severity of the Chernobyl disaster. It conducted air measurements for the Swedish Radiation Safety Authority to determine the extent of the incident. Now it's time for the famous Saab 35 Draken, Swedish for dragon or kite. It took its first flight in 1955. This plane was the first actual supersonic fighter in Western Europe. It was also the first ever plane to perform the famous Cobra maneuver. It was revolutionary with amazing flight performance and the ability to land on public roads. It could carry advanced air-to-air missiles for its time and different air-to-ground missiles. It served in 4 different air forces: Sweden, Austria, Denmark, and Finland, and was retired in 1999 and 2005 in Austria. Now, we're going to take a look at the Saab 37 Viggen. The name refers to the tufted duck in English and Thor's lightning bolts from his hammer. Viggen had 5 main variants: a trainer, a fighter, an attack, a multi-role, and a reconnaissance variant. It is also one of the few afterburning planes with reverse thrust, allowing for very short landings, which was crucial for Sweden during the Cold War. It had a groundbreaking Ericsson radar that allowed radar-guided missiles such as the RB-71 Skyflash. Later variants also allowed the installation of modern NATO weapons such as the AMRAAM. It was taken out of service in 2007. Fun fact: the engine the Viggen used, the Volvo RM8, was a Volvo-modified Pratt & Whitney JT8D, which is the same engine used in civil airlines like the Boeing 707, 717, and earlier variants of the Boeing 737. So they basically took a normal passenger plane's engine and put an afterburner on it. Now it's time for the JS-39 Gripen. The Gripen is a plane that was flown for the first time in 1988. It's still in service till this day, serving in 7 different air forces: Sweden, the Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa, Thailand, Brazil, and in the UK's as a trainer. It's known for its agility, flexibility, and the ability to land on normal roads. The Gripen was chosen to serve the Air Force instead of the Saab 38 and the Viggen. That was it for this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my YouTube for more long-form content.